Hello, and thank you for watching this regional forecast for the Corn Belt. I'm Andrew Pritchard, Senior Meteorologist with Nutrien Ag Solutions. I apologize for the audio being a little bit different today, a little more tin canny. I took the family on a little road trip for the week and went off and forgot the microphone that I usually plug into the computer here. So we're using the computer's internal microphone. It'll get the job done, but it just won't sound quite as good, and it's probably something that's going to be bothering me more than it bothers any one of you. So we'll just go ahead and we'll dive in here. We'll take a look at the satellite picture and the lightning overlay as we get started here on Tuesday morning. We've been watching a cluster of thunderstorms travel across portions of the northern plains here. It started overnight and across portions of South Dakota, northern Nebraska, moving into portions of northwest Iowa and southwestern Minnesota this morning. Elsewhere, a quiet start to the day across the Corn Belt. Sunny skies from Kansas through the eastern Corn Belt here, getting off to another hot and humid day. So let's look at the radar here again from around 4 to 6 o'clock this morning on Tuesday. If you're watching this video a little bit later, you'll want to check an updated look at that radar picture. Again, much of the shower and storm activity across the Corn Belt, really all of the shower and storm activity across the Corn Belt found here across parts of South Dakota, Minnesota, Iowa, and northeastern Nebraska. Looks like maybe a pop-up shower here across portions of central Ohio as well. As we look at the temperatures here at 6 o'clock this morning, already again off to a warm and muggy start for just about everyone until you head well off to the north, parts of the northern plains into the northern Great Lakes, northern Minnesota, northern Wisconsin, the UP of Michigan there, finding some 50s and mid-60s elsewhere though. And you just look at the Gulf is open here, and with this ridge of high pressure, we've got warm and humid air just stagnant across the region. So it just seems like a rinse and repeat here, waking up to those morning temperatures already warm and muggy in the mid-70s, and then of course no relief as you head in through the rest of the day. The last 72 hours of precipitation, the last 3 days, again, we've seen shower and storm activity across the northern plains into the upper Great Lakes. We've seen heavy rain and at times thunderstorm activity across the Gulf Coast. At times, some of that in broken nature has made its way into portions of the southern high plains here, the Panhandle region, into the high plains of Colorado. But as you kind of look at this window here from the central plains into the Great Lakes, mostly dry over the last 3 days. You see some splotchy precipitation there from some of these pop-up thunderstorms during the afternoon. We saw some of that across portions of the eastern Corn Belt, and you notice when they go up on the radar here these days, they don't move. It just kind of goes up, rains its precipitation out, drops out a couple lightning bolts, and then it collapses on itself without even moving because we have absolutely no flow as you go from the ground up into the atmosphere. Of course, the stronger jet stream flow well north of us here with that ridge of high pressure. So the thunderstorm activity across this region yesterday, and then the storm activities we see here today and tomorrow are going to be very similar here. Just no jet stream flow to move those storms, so they kind of just go up and stay stationary. So it's a very frustrating pattern here if you see that storm go up over your neighbor's field, knowing that you very well may likely not get that precipitation. So what I wanted to show here is the last 3 days really going to be a similar look here as we look at the next 48 hours. Again, thunderstorm activity across the northern plains, thunderstorm activity across the Gulf Coast, and then we've got this dry corridor from the central plains. I meant to draw that here in orange, from the central plains through the eastern Corn Belt here, where we will see at times here this afternoon some of those pop-up storms, very localized though, not moving much. So while some will get a heavy downpour, most will remain dry over the next 48 hours, a very similar pattern as what we've seen over the last 3 days. That kind of adds to the building story here across portions of the Great Lakes and the eastern Corn Belt, where we did not see that rainfall over the last weekend. We've seen very hot and dry weather over the past week. We're going to continue to see this hot and mostly dry weather as we head into the next 7 to 10 days. So these localized thunderstorm opportunities, and then what we were going to take a look here for Friday and Saturday becomes very crucial across this region as we try and weather this storm here with some of this hot and dry weather across the region. We do have some severe weather to talk about over the next 3 days, again, as storms ride up and over the top of this ridge. Quite a sizable severe storm risk today, an enhanced risk across portions of Montana and the western Dakotas, a slight risk expanding there across the rest of North Dakota, the northern half of South Dakota, parts of Minnesota, and then a marginal risk extending even into parts of northwest Wisconsin. That, of course, today. Here is Wednesday, and then Thursday. That severe weather risk tomorrow across portions of Nebraska northward to the Minnesota-Wisconsin border. Trying to give it a Wisconsin accent there. And then a marginal risk here for some strong storms slowly making their way back into the eastern Corn Belt here as we get towards the end of the week. So let's start with a look at the 500 millibar vorticity plot. This is going to kind of help us pick out our players here as we head through the next 7 days. Right now you can kind of follow the streamlines here. We've got a trough across the northwest. We've got our ridge across North America. That's what's kept us, or across the U.S., that's what's kept us hot and dry here across the midsection of the country. As we slowly creep through the next few days, we're going to start to watch some activity come up and over the top of that ridge here. It looks like the first wave emerges here across the Central Plains as we get into, this is getting into Thursday, bringing the chance for maybe some scattered storms to parts of Iowa, Missouri, and Illinois here as this wave begins to interact with that hot and humid air mass. We'll take the drawings off and then watch this thing kind of crash over the kind of like a wave crashing here. Watching this flow now, this wave coming over, here's another major one. This is the more sizable one here that comes in Friday and Saturday, a little more organized. And this is going to be the one that I'm going to watch for the chance for some more widespread shower and storm activity across this region here that badly needs it. This is going to be our chance here, Friday and Saturday. Also note what happens to the ridge here as we kind of get the week started. We've got height lines kind of increasing across the Corn Belt as we get into the weekend here, Friday and Saturday. Starting to see that wave crash here, starting to see northwest flow across the region. And again, that's going to bring that chance for showers and storms. It's also going to bring some brief relief from the heat. So here we go. We're just kind of looking at the European model of 500 millibar height anomalies. And this is going to be Tuesday. This is as we get into Sunday. And then this is going to be as we get into Wednesday of next week. And I just want to show you the evolution here. As we get started here, trough in the west. This remains a pretty stable feature here, a permanent feature here as we talk about the last 7 to 14 days and even into the next 7 to 14 days. But check out the heights across the Corn Belt. Here we've got ridging. This is what allows for the heat, the drought across the region. As we get into the weekend, we're going to see that wave come down and deepen across the mid-Atlantic, across New England. That's going to temporarily shove the main axis of the heat off to the west across portions of the Four Corners region and across the Central Plains. Again, this is going to be our shot for some rain across this region, across the eastern Corn Belt, and a temporary cool down here, some temporary relief from the heat. But I want to show you here the emphasis on that is temporary, and it is a kind of a one-time shot here for some sizable measurable precipitation across areas that badly need it here in the east, because as we head into mid-next week, we see that ridge setting back up. It's going to lead to another axis of heat here expanding back into the Great Lakes across the eastern Corn Belt. So let's talk about those thunderstorm chances then over the next 60 hours or so with the high-resolution NAM model. We'll kind of hone in on that severe weather threat across the northern plains. As we head into midday, we can see some of those thunderstorms that are kind of decaying here across parts of Iowa and Minnesota, continue on across parts of southern Wisconsin and potentially far northern Illinois as we head through the day today. Very low confidence in the track of that and where the heaviest precipitation is going to end, but end up we'll have to keep an eye on that. Also possible we could see some of those pop-up storms again across parts of the eastern Corn Belt here from Illinois back into Indiana and Ohio. Again, those just quick pulse storms. They go up, they last about 30 minutes, and they crash back down on top of themselves. It's a frustrating pattern here that's going to leave most of us dry. As we head into the late afternoon and evening, we'll see a squall line erupt across parts of eastern Montana. That could bring some damaging winds, maybe some large hail across parts of North Dakota into the overnight, such that by the time we get to sunrise on Wednesday morning, we could see this MCS continuing across portions of northern Minnesota, and then this could continue on across parts of northern Wisconsin into the UP of Michigan. Again, low confidence on where these things are going to track. These, MCS are kind of not even a day-by-day nowcast situation, sometimes an hour-by-hour situation. And so as it continues off to the east, where it exactly is going to stop and decay is a bit of a question mark. So here we are into midday Wednesday now. Let's take a look at that Wednesday thunderstorm threat regenerating again across this region. Remember, we have that slight risk from Nebraska into the Minnesota-Wisconsin border. We'll watch for a couple of clusters of thunderstorms to erupt across these regions here Wednesday late afternoon into Wednesday evening, and then the same thing holds there. We'll watch for these to travel off to the east slowly as we head into Wednesday night and then Thursday morning. So then question marks here. as we talk about where those thunderstorms either die out or potentially flare back up as we head into the day on Thursday. Let's look a little bit further here with the European model. We'll kind of quickly go through the first 48 hours here. We've covered that in depth. Again, watching for pop-up thunderstorms in this region today, watching for a more widespread severe thunderstorm threat across Montana into the Dakotas late this afternoon, evening into the early overnight. We'll take the drawings off. We watch for that cluster of storms to travel across the Dakotas, potentially into northern Minnesota and northern Wisconsin overnight. As we head into Wednesday afternoon and evening, tomorrow, that best chance for thunderstorms from Nebraska into Minnesota and Wisconsin. It's our best chance for more widespread precipitation and the chance for some damaging winds, large hail, and maybe a tornado or two. And then Thursday, this is as we get into Illinois, we start to introduce maybe a more widespread chance for some thunderstorm activity. We could see clusters of storms popping up anywhere across this region from Nebraska into Kansas, Iowa, Missouri, Illinois, maybe even Wisconsin, perhaps some pop-up thunderstorms across Indiana and Kentucky and Tennessee on Thursday. And then Friday and Saturday, this is our shot here across the eastern Corn Belt. Who gets the rain? Who gets left out? The people who get left out may be in trouble then as we head into next week as we deal with another 5 to 7 day period of heat and very little in the way of rain chances. So this is what it looks like now as we head into Friday and then heading into Saturday, looking for the potential for 1 or 2 clusters of thunderstorms across this region. This is something we'll talk about again as we check back in here throughout the week, trying to understand where these thunderstorms are going to set up, because as we get beyond that, we get beyond Sunday into Monday, we're going to expand that heat once again across the eastern Corn Belt and across the Great Lakes, shoving that thunderstorm activity well back to the north, again, avoiding the eastern Corn Belt. So crucial, depending on who's going to get that precipitation here Friday and Saturday, maybe even into Sunday across the eastern Corn Belt. We'll take a look at total precipitation from the European model over the next 48 hours. Again, with the heaviest precipitation, the most widespread precipitation off to the north, off to the south, driest here across the Central Plains into the eastern Corn Belt, only pop-up thunderstorm activity expected. As we head then deeper into Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, here's our shot across the eastern Corn Belt, areas that badly need that precipitation. We see some of that stacking up here during the day. You can see the time frame up here Friday into Saturday. Now this is the operational run, just one glance here at this one model's guess at where that thunderstorm activity is going to set up. We can compare the ECMWF, the European model on the left, the GFS here over on the right. Again, we see good agreement in some of that scattered thunderstorm activity, but when we kind of dive in here, let's look at the ensemble forecast here. The European model on the left, GFS ensemble on the right. We're looking at the probability of more than 1 inch of the precipitation accumulating between now and Sunday, 7 p.m. So that covers our Friday, Saturday, maybe Sunday precipitation chance. Big differences in the probabilities here. Yellow shading, that's where we get north of 50%, better than 50-50 odds here. So we want to focus on that yellow and orange shading. You look at the European model, we've got very low probability here. You look at the GFS ensemble, slightly more confidence here. In the 50 to 70% chance here of getting more widespread 1 inch precipitation. So again, the time frame is fairly clear here. It's Friday, Saturday, maybe into Sunday that we get that chance here, perhaps across Illinois, maybe starting as early as Thursday. But the location, the widespread nature of it, are we going to give a big widespread soaking of 1/2 inch to 1 inch, or is it going to be really kind of smaller thunderstorm clusters? Those are the question marks that still need to be answered here. And so before we get too excited, I kind of wanted to let you know that this is our window, focused on Friday and Saturday, but we'll have to watch the confidence here as we head deeper into this one, because we don't have the agreement here yet, even at 4 to 5 days out. What we do have good agreement is on the ridge rebuilding here as we head into next week. So we'll get a temporary relief from that cool down, or from the heat here across the eastern Corn Belt as we head to the back half of the weekend, Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday, but really returning back to about where we should be this time of year. We're talking about a cool down, highs in the mid to upper 80s, not necessarily, what I would consider cool, but when we talk about next week, ramping back up here to hundreds across the Central Plains, mid 90s, extending back into the Great Lakes, we'll absolutely enjoy those mid 80s on Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. So here's a look at your high temperatures for the next few days. Tuesday, 90s, pretty much widespread until you head off to the north. That's going to be the story as we head through much of the week here, getting into Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. Here you're starting to see some of that cool down. We'll put that in quotes, though. We're talking about low, mid, upper 80s here from the Great Lakes down into the eastern Corn Belt, and this is temporary. By the time that we get into the early and mid part of next week, this heat once again begins to expand across the Corn Belt. Have a great day, a wonderful Tuesday. We'll talk to you again on Friday morning.